Hello, Nicole with Create the Right Way. And we are back to talk about paper today because holy cow, paper can really just take over and be all over the place and a really, really hard thing to deal with. If you have caught any of my previous videos, I have talked a little bit about paper and trying to attack it from different angles. And so, in a previous one I did, I talked about kids' paperwork coming home from school that can really get overwhelming very quickly. Especially if you have multiple kids like we do, there is just a lot of influx of paper. So, in that video, I talked about if you want to save it, then throw it in a bin and deal with it later. So, we are going to talk about when does later come? What do you do with it? So, perfect timing with the end of the school year here, and really that influx of paper and all the art projects and all of the things that they come home with. We have these under the bed storage bins. We don't store them under the bed, but we have them in our storage unit for each of the kids. And we always just, if we want to keep it, we just mark the year, the grade, something like that, throw it in the bin and let it pile up. And so you may not have time to go back and deal with it every year, and that's okay. So, whatever season you're in, when you have time to deal with it, when the bin is getting full, that's probably a good time to deal with it. But if you have time to deal with it before then, really encourage you to do that. And so we have been recently doing this with our kids, and it's a really, really cool experience. So, this is a really important skill to help teach your kids about what to keep and helping them kind of discern and go through those memories, and that it's okay to not have to hang on to every little thing from their childhood. And you'll be surprised actually at how much easier it might be for them to go through this stuff than if you were going through this, because even just in doing this, realizing that there are things that I would have just easily cast aside that seemed like construction paper, little things that seemed very not special to me that they kept, and then things that it looked to be like they spent a lot of time crafting and creating and they just easily put that in the discard pile. So it was really eye-opening to actually let them go through this and do this with them and not just make those decisions for them. And so again, just really having two simple piles of a keep and discard pile, and don't interfere. That is so important, is just, be there, encourage and relive the memories or laughs or things like that with them, but just let them call the shots on it and let them know that's perfectly okay. And even if you're secretly like, oh my gosh, don't throw that out, go through that later. Take their discard pile and get rid of whatever you can, recycle, throw it out, depending what it is. But if there's something special, then you keep that in your own separate memory bin of, as a parent, these are the additional things I want to keep in this bin or container or something. Get yourself something to put those memories in, but let them keep the things that are special to them. And, it may not be the things that you think, and that is okay. And that's really important to teach our kids that that's okay to do that and make those decisions. And you want them to have that skill, because that will translate to so many areas of their lives if they can just decide. And maybe, so for example, I have the piles here. So this was the keep pile from one of our kids, and then I have a discard pile here on the floor of all of this, which all of this is stuff that, he was like, nope, I don't need it, I don't need to get rid of. And and there's stuff like this, which, this goofy little hat, it looks really funny, but he picked this up, and immediately in my mind I see him up there on the stage, his little 4K graduation, had his little hat on, his little butterfly wings, and that memory immediately popped in my head. And I know I have pictures and videos and all that stuff. And he's like, I don't even remember wearing this. And it's like, oh my goodness. And so, it's definitely can be a lot harder on us as a parent. And so if there are those things, again, put that in your own special bin. Don't put that on your kids, because if he doesn't remember it now, he's not going to remember it more when he's older. And it's fun to tell that story, and I can tell that story when he's older, and I can show him those pictures and the videos and all of that stuff, because the memory is up here. It's not, yes, this triggered it, but I also have those pictures. And so, as a parent, it can definitely be a lot harder on us than on the kids to get rid of stuff. And so it's really important to have them in this process and keeping what's special for them. So definitely just take that pressure off of yourself and get them involved, because it can be very overwhelming to think about, oh my gosh, how do I even start going through my kids' stuff if I don't even have these bins? just grab a pile. You've got the stuff stuffed somewhere, and maybe it's not, you haven't been throwing it in a bin. It's just like, I don't know, overloading their closet or something like that. Don't feel like you need to attack it all at once. Just, start with what they brought home from this school year. Like, okay, what do you want to keep? What do you want to get rid of? And start your memory bin. And then as you have time, as you come across things, then you put it in there. So don't feel like you need to attack everything right away or get down on yourself if you haven't been throwing it in a bin. That is okay. Start with where you're at and just start with the stuff that came home this year and go from there. And little by little, it's going to come together and you will get there and you will get it organized and under control, because the older they get, the further out they are from whatever that activity is, whatever that thing is that they drew or painted or crafted or wrote or anything like that. It's not going to get more special to them as they get older. So, there's always those unique things like their little tiny hand prints. Absolutely. Keep that stuff and maybe, put that aside and, like I said, your parent bin for them. And you can always even, bring that out later when they're older and maybe you think they'll appreciate it more at that point. But all the other projects and things, let them decide and put that in their bin. And so really take that pressure off of yourself of having to make those decisions. And that's really kind of nice too, of like, oh, I want this bin to be special. And when they're an adult and they're off in their own place and you give them their stuff from their childhood, it's not boxes and boxes of overwhelming stuff. It's the memories that they have. They're like, oh, I remember this. I remember being excited to keep this. And this means something to me and I want to have this. And it's not an overwhelming amount of things for them to go through. So I hope that helps you, and it's a really cool experience. So if you are in a busy season, don't worry about this. But if you have the time, when you have the time to go through this with your kids, I would highly encourage it. It's really fun for them to go through. It's a cool experience to have with them, and it helps them really start getting through that, getting used to that decision making about things to keep, and can really help kind of take the difficulty out of sometimes going back through sentimental stuff, because that really can build up, and trying to help them learn that skill set earlier in life. So if you want any help with any of that, I am always here to help. Happy to do virtual consultations or in person as well, and would be happy to help you in that way if that would be valuable to you. That's what I have for you guys today, and have a great one.